The forest looks peaceful from a distance, but don't let the silence fool you, because sometimes silence is the loudest warning nature can give. Tonight, something is watching. Not one animal, not two, but dozens of hidden eyes, quietly staring through the darkness. None of them make a sound. None of them dare to move. Their attention isn't on each other. It's fixed on something much smaller, a tiny flame, dancing in the middle of the night. To us, it's just a campfire, a little warmth, a little light, a place to sit, to talk, to feel safe. But to the creatures hiding beyond those trees, that same fire means something completely different. It means danger. It means destruction. And sometimes, it means death. The valley. Imagine this. A full-grown wolf, strong enough to hunt deer. A bear, powerful enough to tear apart fallen logs with a single swipe. Even a tiger, one of nature's most fearless predators, can stop in its tracks the moment it sees fire. Not because they're weak, not because they're confused, but because millions of years of evolution have taught them one lesson. Never challenge the flames. For millions of years, before cities, before civilization, before humans ruled the earth, fire ruled everything. It didn't matter how fast you could run, how sharp your claws were, or how powerful your bite was. Fire hunted everything, and nothing could fight back. Music slowly builds. Tonight, we're uncovering one of the oldest survival instincts on Earth. Why do wild animals fear fire? What happens inside their brains the moment they smell smoke? Why can a tiny campfire stop predators that could easily overpower a human? And most importantly, how did this single discovery change the future of our own species forever? Because by the end of this documentary, you won't see a campfire the same way again. Fade to black. The night that changed everything. Thousands of years ago, long before flashlights, with shaking hands, he gathered dry wood, fallen branches, pieces of bark, anything that could burn. After several failed attempts, a single spark finally caught. Tiny flames appeared. Small, weak, almost fragile. But within minutes, that little flame became his only source of warmth, his only light, and without realizing it, his only protection. He sat beside the fire, hoping the night would pass quietly. But the forest had other plans. As a distant branch suddenly snaps, the man freezes. He slowly lifts his head. Somewhere, hidden between the trees, something is moving. Before rifles, before anyone could call for help, a lone traveler found himself deep inside an endless forest. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a famous hunter. He was simply a man, trying to survive another night. The sun was disappearing behind the trees. The temperature dropped with every passing minute. Shadows stretched across the ground until the forest became almost impossible to see through. He knew something every traveler feared. The real danger of a forest doesn't begin during the day. It begins after sunset. Why forest animals fear fire? The traveler didn't move, not even a single step. His breathing became slower, almost silent, as if even the sound of his own heartbeat might reveal his location. Another crack, this time, much closer. Dry leaves were being crushed under heavy paws. Whatever was out there wasn't hiding anymore. The man slowly reached for a burning stick, holding it tightly in trembling hands. Not because he thought it could be used as a weapon, but because it was the only thing standing between him and the darkness. Then he saw them, two bright eyes, floating in complete darkness. Seconds later, another pair appeared, then another, and another. Within moments, more than half a dozen glowing eyes surrounded the campsite from different directions. A pack of wolves had found him. The wolves weren't barking. They weren't attacking. They simply watched, patient, silent, calculating every movement. They could smell the fresh meat cooking over the fire. They could hear the man's heartbeat. They knew. He was alone. Normally, a lone human would have been an easy target. But tonight, something wasn't right. Every time one wolf stepped a little closer, the flames suddenly danced higher. The orange light reflected in their eyes, and almost instantly, they stopped. Not because the man looked dangerous, because the fire did. For several long minutes, nothing happened. The fire crackled. The wind whispered through the trees. The wolves slowly paced around the edge of the light, never crossing the invisible line. It almost looked like they were trapped by something no one could see. The man noticed it too. Every time the flames became weaker, the wolves took another cautious step forward. And every time he threw another log into the fire, they backed away again. Without realizing it, he had discovered something our ancestors would rely on for thousands of generations. Fire was stronger than fear itself. The longest night hours passed. The cold became unbearable. Sleep wasn't an option. Every few minutes, the traveler reached for another piece of wood, feeding the flames before they could shrink. His hands were exhausted. His eyes burned from the smoke. But stopping, even for a few minutes, could mean death. Fire crackling grows softer. Then, something terrifying happened. The flames began to die. The last pieces of dry wood were almost gone. The light became weaker. The shadows grew longer. Almost immediately, the wolves noticed. One large wolf slowly stepped forward, then another. Their growls became deeper, more confident. For the first time that night, they crossed a little closer than before. The man's breathing became rapid. His hands desperately searched the ground. More branches, more bark, anything that would burn. Finally, his fingers touched a pile of dry sticks. He threw them into the fire. The flames exploded back to life. Bright orange light filled the clearing. The wolves instantly froze. The leader stared at the fire for several seconds, before slowly taking a step backward, then another. Within moments, the entire pack retreated into the darkness once again. The invisible barrier had returned. Minute after minute, hour after hour, the battle continued. Not between man and wolves, but between darkness and fire. Finally, the first rays of sunlight touched the tops of the trees. Birds began to sing again. The forest slowly came back to life. One by one, the glowing eyes disappeared. The wolves silently walked away without making a sound. The traveler survived, not because he was stronger, not because he was faster, but because he understood one simple truth, even before science could explain it. Sometimes, the smallest flame can defeat the strongest predator. But here's the question. Why? Why would animals capable of hunting creatures many times larger than humans refuse to cross a simple campfire? What makes fire so terrifying that millions of animals instinctively avoid it, even if they've never experienced it before? To answer that, we need to travel back, not thousands of years, but millions. Why fire terrifies. The burning campfire slowly fades into a massive wildfire spreading across an ancient forest. The traveler survived. The wolves disappeared. But their behavior raises a question that scientists have been trying to answer for decades. Why would a hungry predator risk losing an easy meal instead of simply attacking? The answer begins millions of years before humans ever walked the earth. Fire was nature's first monster. Imagine a world with no roads, no cities, no firefighters, only endless forests stretching as far as the eye could see. Then suddenly, a bolt of lightning strikes a dead tree. For a few seconds, nothing happens. Then, a tiny spark appears. The dry leaves catch fire. The wind grows stronger. Within minutes, the flames begin racing across the forest floor. Trees explode into fire. Smoke darkens the sky. Animals start running in every direction. Some escape. Many never do. For millions of years, this scene repeated itself over and over and over again. Long before humans learned how to control fire, nature had already made it one of the deadliest forces on Earth. Evolution never forgot. Every wildfire left behind two kinds of animals: those that ignored the warning and those that ran immediately. The curious ones, the fearless ones, the animals that moved closer to investigate, rarely survived. But the cautious animals, the ones that turned away the moment they smelled smoke, lived long enough to reproduce. Generation after generation, that survival instinct became stronger, until eventually it became something much deeper than experience. It became instinct. Today, most wild animals don't need to be taught that fire is dangerous. Their brains are already prepared for it, before they're even born. It's one of evolution's oldest survival programs. That's why a deer suddenly lifts its head, long before humans notice anything unusual. Why wolves become restless, even when the flames are still kilometers away. Why birds abandon their nests before smoke can even be seen. Because nature isn't waiting for proof. Nature reacts to survive. Fire doesn't behave like a predator. Every predator has limits. A lion eventually gets tired. A wolf can be outrun. A snake strikes only within a certain distance. Animals understand these rules. They've evolved alongside predators for millions of years. They know how predators hunt. They know when to fight. They know when to run. But fire breaks every rule. It has no heartbeat, no eyes, no warning growl. It doesn't chase because it's hungry. It destroys everything in its path. Only a small flame, climbing trees, jumping across dry grass, carried by the wind faster than most animals can react. That unpredictability makes fire one of the most terrifying forces in nature, because you can't negotiate with it. You can't scare it away. You can't wait for it to become tired. The only safe decision is to leave. Before animals ever see fire, they smell it. And for many species, that smell is enough. A wolf's nose is estimated to be dozens of times more sensitive than a human's. A bear can detect scents from incredible distances. Even deer, whose survival depends on detecting danger early, can recognize smoke long before flames appear. To us, Smoke might simply smell unpleasant, but to wildlife, it's an emergency signal, a warning that says, leave now or risk losing everything. More than fear, its survival fire doesn't only threaten an animal's life, it destroys its home, its food, its shelter, its hunting grounds, its future. A wildfire can erase an entire territory in just a few hours. For an animal, that's not just danger, it's complete survival collapse. And that's why, when the first smell of smoke drifts through the trees, the smartest choice isn't bravery, it's escape. So, the wolves weren't afraid because they were weak. They weren't running because humans were stronger. They stayed away because millions of years of evolution had already taught them that some battles can never be won. But here's something even more fascinating. Not every animal reacts to fire in exactly the same way. Some flee instantly, some wait, watching from a distance, and a few species have evolved behaviors so surprising that they completely changed what scientists thought they knew about wildlife. Let's meet them, one by one. How forest animals react to fire. Every creature in the forest has its own way of surviving. Some rely on speed, others depend on strength. Some disappear into the shadows, while others trust the safety of the herd. But when fire enters the forest, something extraordinary happens. Predators, prey, hunters, and victims all begin reacting to the same enemy. For a few brief moments, nature's oldest rivalry no longer matters. Survival becomes everyone's only priority. Wolves are among the smartest hunters on Earth. They rarely hunt alone. Every movement, every chase, every attack depends on teamwork. Each wolf knows exactly where the others are. One distracts, another circles behind. The leader waits until the perfect moment to attack. But all of that discipline falls apart near fire. The moment flames appear, their strategy changes completely. Instead of surrounding their prey, they begin circling the fire itself, keeping a safe distance, watching, waiting, almost as if they're trying to understand whether the flames will grow or disappear. Researchers observing wolves near campsites have noticed something remarkable. Even when food is clearly visible, healthy wolf packs often refuse to cross an active fire, not because they lose interest, but because the risk is simply too high. To a wolf, one successful hunt is never worth risking the entire pack. That's why you'll often see wolves pacing, watching from the darkness, waiting patiently. The fire becomes an invisible wall, one they rarely choose to cross. A fully grown bear can weigh more than 400 kilograms. Its strength is almost unimaginable. With one powerful swipe, it can break thick branches, flip over massive rocks, or tear open rotten tree trunks searching for insects. To most animals, a bear is unstoppable. Yet even this giant treats fire with remarkable caution. Before a bear ever sees flames, it usually smells them. And that's because a bear's sense of smell is one of the strongest in the entire animal kingdom. Scientists estimate a bear can detect certain scents from several kilometers away, depending on the wind. So, when smoke drifts through the forest, the bear already knows something dangerous lies ahead. It pauses, lifts its head, sniffs the air again, and in many cases, quietly turns around, choosing another path. Not because it's afraid of humans, but because generations of survival have taught it to respect fire. Wildlife researchers have documented this behavior repeatedly. Bears may investigate campsites searching for food, but an active, well-maintained fire often convinces them that the risk isn't worth taking. Fire doesn't guarantee safety, but it changes the bear's decision-making. Sometimes, that's all it takes. Music slowly rises. But what about animals that rely on complete silence? Masters of ambush, predators capable of disappearing right before your eyes. Would fire stop them too? Or would they simply hunt from the shadows? The answer might surprise you. Big cats. When even the king of the jungle stops. If there's one predator that seems completely fearless, it's the tiger. Built from pure muscle, equipped with razor-sharp claws, and powerful enough to bring down prey several times its own weight. A tiger doesn't usually back away from anything. It doesn't chase. It doesn't panic. It waits, patiently, sometimes for hours, watching, calculating, waiting for one perfect mistake. That's how big cats survive. Not through speed, but through surprise. Visual. The tiger slowly approaches through thick bushes toward a distant campsite. Now imagine that same tiger stalking its prey through the darkness. Everything is perfect. The wind is in its favor. The prey has no idea it's being watched. One more silent step, and the hunt is over. Then, a single flame appears. Everything changes. The darkness disappears. The moving flames create dancing shadows. Smoke fills the air. The ground becomes brighter. Suddenly, the tiger loses its greatest weapon, its invisibility. Unlike humans, big cats don't understand controlled fire. To them, fire is completely unpredictable. It doesn't stay still. It grows. It moves with the wind. It makes strange sounds. And every second, it behaves differently. For an ambush predator, that's a nightmare. Because a hunter that cannot predict danger becomes vulnerable itself. Leopards, masters of silence. Leopards are even more secretive than tigers. They're experts at disappearing. Most people never realize a leopard is nearby until it's already gone. Their entire world depends on remaining unseen. But fire changes the rules. The bright orange light removes the shadows they rely on. Every branch, every movement, every pair of glowing eyes becomes easier to notice. Instead of moving closer, many leopards simply wait, watching from a safe distance until the danger disappears. Lions, power meets instinct. Even lions, often called the kings of the animal kingdom, show similar caution. Unlike solitary hunters, lions depend on teamwork. Every hunt requires coordination. Every attack depends on timing. But near active fire, communication breaks down. Smoke blocks visibility. Flames create panic. The pride loses its rhythm. And when teamwork disappears, the hunt usually ends before it even begins. That's why wildlife experts working in fire-prone regions often observe lion prides changing direction, rather than moving toward burning areas. Not because they're defeated, because instinct tells them there's nothing to gain. The gentle giants, elephants. If there's one animal known for intelligence, memory, and family bonds. It's the elephant. An adult elephant weighs several tons. Very few animals would ever challenge it. But fire is different. An elephant doesn't need to see flames to know danger is near. The faint smell of smoke is often enough. The herd immediately becomes alert. The adults move closer together. The calves are pushed safely into the center. No one is left behind. No one is allowed to wander. Within moments, the entire herd quietly changes direction. Scientists studying elephant behavior have discovered something extraordinary. Elephants remember, not just places, but dangerous experiences. A herd that has survived a wildfire may avoid that same region for years. Older elephants, especially experienced females leading the herd, remember where the danger came from, and without saying a single word, they teach the next generation. The young elephants simply follow, learning that some places are never worth returning to. Fire isn't just something elephants fear. It's something they remember, perhaps for the rest of their lives. But not every animal is a giant. Some weigh only a few kilograms. Some survive by running. Others survive by hiding underground. So if almost every wild animal instinctively avoids fire, what happened when one species, instead of running away, learned to control it? That single discovery didn't just change human history. It changed the balance of life on Earth forever. And that's where our story becomes even more incredible. Please hit the like button and subscribe to Ritraven for more cinematic wildlife documentaries, amazing animal facts, and incredible true stories from nature.